Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have been in ministry for 9 years now, and I cannot believe it. Today is 9 years on the dot exactly, and 9 years is pretty insane because that is half of my life. Literally, because I'm 18 now. But, anyways, we're going to talk about this journey more after the intro. So, welcome back to another episode of Couch Conversations. Today, we're on the couch in the AC, y'all, because it is mid July and it is hot in Florida, okay? But today, we are talking about something very special. Today makes 9 years that I've been in ministry, and this journey has been filled with so many lessons, emotions, and memories. And we're going to talk about kind of like each phase and stage of my ministry journey today and just kind of dive into everything as a whole. So, as a church girl and the daughter and granddaughter of pastors and preachers, I've always loved church. It's always been a huge part of me and my world and how I kind of fashion my life. In fact, I hated missing church growing up. Like, I knew missing church wasn't a sin because I feel like it's more about your relationship and connection with God, rather than how many services you can attend in a week that makes you the most holy and righteous. But church really was and still is where it's at for me. Like, if I wasn't sick or on vacation, I was at church. And I may have been hurting a little bit here and there, but I was at church. I came, okay? And I feel like that love of church has really led me to the ministry aspect of everything that I do now. So I come from a very musically inclined family as well. And my grandparents, my dad's parents, Pop and Meemaw, had a singing group before they started the church that they founded and then pastored for several decades, which is the church that my dad also grew up in as a pastor's kid and is now pastoring himself, which therefore is the church that I've grown up in all my life. So it's very generational. My dad grew up as well, very musically inclined, and has played keys since he was 6, but has played many, instruments as well in the course of his lifetime. And if I remember correctly, my Meemaw had a season where she played keys and was into piano for a season. But by the time I was born, that era and season of her life was over. So I kind of like missed that. But the musical influence really did hop over to me, and I started picking up keys, drums, and percussions. And also, I did do middle school band for a little bit. I did trombone. So yeah. July 24th, 2016 was my first Sunday in the Musicians Corner at church, and I played for my first service for praise and worship the very first time. And so I did that for 4 years up until 2020. And I did take a little 3-month hiatus though from music ministry because of my scoliosis surgery in the summer of 2019. And so it was definitely hard just because I love to worship God through music, and when I wasn't up there, it was very different, but they still gave me a mic so that I could sit and sing during praise and worship as much as I wanted to and, could handle, in my stages of recovery. But my favorite parts of music ministry, one, behind the scenes, going to practice on those Tuesday nights. And I feel like putting together the vocals, arrangements, and music for how the songs will be presented is very, very important. And I enjoy just the process of seeing it and hearing it all kind of like come together in rehearsal before doing it on Sunday morning. And then number 2, I also enjoy just the expression of it all. One of my favorite pastors, E. Dewey Smith Jr., said that our worship, it is an upward presentation and an outward demonstration of an inward transformation. And I really feel like in that season of my life, I could resonate with that. And I enjoyed that time between me and God to that level and to that extent, and it was just really, really special. And I also think it was really sweet for my dad just because he was already on keys and full-time minister of music and worship pastor while also youth pastor at the same time. And so I was joining him, and together we got to do something that we both loved in ministry and where we spend a lot of our time. So I was in music ministry from July 24th, 2016 to March 15th, 2020. And at this point in time, y'all already know, my role in ministry was shifting as we were changing the way that church was happening and being done because of the pandemic. And so, with being mandated to stay home, we just shut down gatherings altogether, and we didn't do what most churches did and pre-recorded things with the worship team and band. And so for a while, it was just my dad preaching here at home with a backdrop on the wall from Hobby Lobby with Hobby Lobby fabric in the living room here. And he had the HDMI cable hooked up to the TV that had his PowerPoint of scriptures on it for the people to follow along with him. So I became media director in March 2020 when it was the first online service, literally right then and there. And I was handling online streaming, social media content, graphics, all the things, like all that stuff. And I missed my traditional Sunday morning routine of actually getting up, getting ready, and getting in the car to go to church. And of course, when we were doing online church, we still got ready, like completely dressed from head to toe. But it was much more different just because we were doing it by ourselves. And it was definitely a shift just because I was so used to doing this one thing. And my love of music, like with that, I never really saw myself doing anything else other than music ministry. And I think that's just because I saw my dad do that forever and ever and ever, because he was minister of music forever. So when I became media director, that was when I learned one of my greatest lessons in ministry, that, you're not always going to be in the same department doing the same thing forever. And I will say, over time, I did start to love being media director more and more. I started to gain more creativity and ideas, and it got better as time progressed. I still missed music ministry, of course, because it was my heart, but not as bad because I was starting to find my place in the space that I was promoted to. That's what I've been doing since March 2020. And even when we went to in-person worship again, back to it, I never went back to music ministry. Like, I enjoyed my time on stage, but in that pandemic process, a lot of my goals and interests and plans kind of shifted. I can say that the pandemic really satisfied my introverted side of life and being at home. And I can definitely say when we did come out of like the pandemic era, it was socially weird for both school and church. Just because we were talking so much through the screens. I was only restless in the pandemic because I couldn't see my people, couldn't like be affectionate. And part of me like really missed that social physical interaction of being, especially like in the world and exploring. Back then it was like a sin to even step outside the house. Once we did come back to church, being behind the scenes and not being in front anymore as media director really satisfied my introverted heart for that season and for this season, because it's current. I still do media, and I would say more so now than ever, I'm very, very introverted and reserved compared to how I was in music ministry. So the media booth now for me is like a security blanket, but every once in a while I'll slip back up on stage and sing and lead worship and that sort of thing. Like, I can quickly go back like and forth in between my multiple different elements at any given moment. Okay, so don't let my love for what I do now fool me, because I can go back real quick. But I really do love what I do now, though. I'm extremely happy, so very happy. Like, every time I walk into church on Sunday morning, it never feels like work to me because I love it and it's easy for me. Like, tech things are really my thing. And yes, it does get hard and frustrating and stressful when those tech things have technical difficulties and everyone's looking at me. But one thing I've had to learn is that, you cannot be concerned with people who are concerned over the minor things because they don't understand what it takes as far as like the online streaming and social media aspect is concerned. Like, it really be the people who don't have a clue of what goes on that be complaining the most, for real. And all the media people, if you know, okay? But y'all should have seen me during convocation. And I'm not fixing to share this story to blast anybody, but rather to share what I have dealt with from experience, because I want y'all to know that I do love it, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So for example, a couple hours before the night of convocation, before the first night of convocation, flashbacks to June weekend recap, I received a noise complaint from someone in our church. Now, mind you, sound check was already done. The mics had already been set to their levels. And I said to myself, I said, do you want to come run this soundboard then? Since you want to complain. Like, don't go up and sit in the front next to the speakers and complain about them. No, like, and I had to calm myself down and ask God to shut my mouth because I was getting smart. But I'm just like, you don't know, you don't understand. And truth be told, I don't run the soundboard at church, so that ain't even my department. So I just worry about the online streaming and the social media stuff. Now, as the media director, like, I oversee the soundboard a little bit to make sure that the audio is good for the online streaming, you know, and different things like that. And I oversee other things as well. But I don't touch that soundboard because our soundboard is massive. Like, you come up there and you see that soundboard, you think you're on tour, because that's really what it's giving, honestly. So I think when the technical difficulties occur, it's sometimes that sudden, automatic, immediate expectation that I know what's happening and that I'm just supposed to fix it right then and there, when that's really not the case. But other than those little minor tests and trials and pet peeves, we be doing good every single week, and I'm here for it. In addition to me being media director, and all my responsibilities there, I'm also part of the support staff. That means, like, I'm kind of an administrative assistant, especially during like the big weekends where we have, you know, like convocation and conferences and things like that, because my parents were so heavily involved in the services for convocation. Like, that meant that I was really the only main person, like, in our family to kind of hold down the fort and kind of answer those emergency questions. And I know my parents well enough to know what they would want in certain situations and circumstances. And so that helps to make things seamless. My role in support staff is really just behind the scenes so that, you know, I can really be helpful to the leadership that is in front of the scenes and interacting with the people the most. And we just gel so well together so that every big event works as well as it possibly can. And so that's what I've been up to, at least, you know, the past 9 years in ministry. I am so thankful to do what I do. My journey from the very beginning to where it is now has only been uphill, literally only been uphill. I loved music ministry because I loved, you know, music and combining that with worship. That's like my thing. But I was directly near speakers all the time. So you can only hear so much of the congregation because, you know, you can only hear vocals and music. And also with the musician's corner, like, you know, you have the walls that kind of block the equipment. So you don't really see much when you're up there. But with me sitting in the back in the media booth, like, I can hear the congregation singing along in worship. Like, I get to see everything. I get to see every single living soul from where I sit or stand in that booth to see their reactions to either the sermon or the worship that's taking place. Like, it's very, very interesting how when your area of ministry changes, you get different, how should I say that? You get different seats and you get to see things differently in different places. So being young in ministry is so much fun. It really is. And it's easy to be talented and gifted and anointed and serve God when you're so connected to what He has called you to and how He chooses to use you in whatever capacity that may be. And so these past 9 years especially have been my best training camp. But even before being in ministry, like, I was already learning a lot and so many things just as a PK. And I think a lot of PKs are really successful in either business and things of that nature because you learn how to be really the jack of all trades. Like, You also learn how to read people, deal with people who are both precious and petty. Okay. You really become aware and you have such a deeper understanding of things more than just a regular church kid would. And that's how I see it, just because, I've always been a pastor's kid. So I've always had that extra awareness to certain things. And I don't know why that just popped up on the screen. So I'm proud to serve the Lord and his people and my church. And it's beyond an honor. I can't explain it, but everything that I do for God is just simply me giving back to him in a way that seems so inadequate, because in reality, we could never serve God to the degree of how he has served us. And so, yeah, that has been my journey these past 9 years, and taking you guys through the shifting seasons and all that, but it's all been for the best. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this special Couch Conversations episode about my journey in ministry. It's definitely been adventurous, but I am ready for the next 9 years and the next 9 after that, and so on and so forth. But I love you guys so much, and I will see you very soon. Bye.